Dusk was falling. Veer and his two knucklehead friends were hiding in the bushes next to his aunt's house, waiting for the neighborhood to go to sleep. These were boys who mistook pop culture for reality. They had hatched a full-blown James Bond-style plan. The plan was simple. The moment the lights went out, Veer would cross the boundary wall, shimmy up the pipe, reach the window, snatch the papers, and make a run for it. But life, as Veer was about to learn, is a little different from the movies. The lights finally went out. Veer, pumping himself up as the next 007, crossed the boundary. He grabbed the pipe to climb, but reality hit him hard. Movies lie. It wasn't effortless. After sustaining several scratches and bruises, he barely managed to scramble onto the roof. He reached the window and pried it open to enter. Screech! A security alarm shattered the silence of the night. Instantly, floodlights washed over the house. Veer panicked and looked down for backup, only to find his loyal friends had vanished the second the alarm went off, leaving him hanging high and dry. The front door flew open. Aunts and her family rushed out. Veer was caught red-handed. Moments later, the police had arrived and were ready to drag Veer away on theft charges. Just then, Aunt summoned Veer's uncles, who lived nearby. Veer stood there, pale as a ghost. He wasn't afraid of the police. He was terrified that his mother would find out.
Well, look at this little genius. Did you really think we'd let you swallow our 3 crores that easily? Call his mother. She deserves to know what her precious son is up to.
Oh, absolutely. Let's dial her number.
No, please, don't call Mom. If she finds out, it will break her. Please.
Hearing this, Aunts and Uncle exchanged a conspiratorial glance. A wicked idea formed in their eyes.
Look here, kid, I'll let you go. I'll even drop these theft charges. But you have to convince your mother to sell the mansion. You're a smart boy, aren't you? You understand what I'm saying.
And if that mansion isn't vacated by next month, just remember, old houses have a nasty habit of catching fire very easily.
The threat hit Veer like a physical blow. It shook him to his core. He realized instantly that the consequences of his childish mistake were far more terrifying than jail. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about the safety of his mother and sister. These greedy relatives would stoop to any level to get that property. Filled with self-loathing for his immaturity, Veer stood silent as they kicked him out with a final warning. The incident had shattered Veer's world. He now knew there was only one way to fix this. He needed money, and he needed it fast. The only way to get it was to go to Titan. The next morning, under the pretext of going to college, Veer headed straight for Khurana's office. Veer entered the lab, calling out for Khurana, but there was no reply. He was impatient, fueled by adrenaline and desperation. In his haste, he decided not to wait. He would do this himself. He spotted a large object that looked like a telephone booth. Inside, there was a single large red button. Veer scanned the room one last time, stepped into the booth, and slammed his hand on the button. The moment the button clicked, the booth was flooded with blinding light. Strange, shifting colors washed over Veer's body. Slowly, thick smoke began to fill the small space. Veer watched in panic as the smoke rose from his feet, creeping up to his shoulders. He frantically pawed at the console, trying to find the button to stop it. The booth began to shake violently. The smoke swallowed him completely. Choking and flailing, Veer finally found the button by feel and pressed it. Click. The shaking stopped. The door hissed open. Veer didn't wait to look. He stumbled out, coughing violently, trying to clear his lungs. As his breathing steadied, he looked up and froze. He wasn't in Khurana's lab anymore. He was standing in a completely white room with nothing but a single door. Heart pounding, Veer pushed the door open and stepped through. As he crossed the threshold, Veer's pupils dilated in shock. His heart hammered against his ribs. It looked like he had stepped into heaven. Massive mountains floated in the air, suspended between the sky and the earth. The trees bore leaves in colors he hadn't even known existed. The grass beneath his feet glowed as if millions of tiny LED bulbs were woven into the soil. The air was cleaner and more fragrant than anything he had ever breathed in his entire life. He stood there, mesmerized, unable to process the beauty around him. Roar! A deafening, beastly roar shattered the peace. Veer snapped out of his trance and spun around to look behind him. Veer turned around, and what he saw made his heart skip a beat. The blood drained from his face instantly, and his feet felt heavy, rooted to the ground as if turned to stone. Standing right in front of him was a monstrosity. It was a nightmare hybrid. It had the head of a ferocious lion, but the massive armored body of a rhinoceros. Like a beast from the Ice Age, massive saber-toothed fangs protruded from its mouth, hanging low. To make it even more terrifying, writhing tentacles sprouted all over its head. Veer was paralyzed with fear. He couldn't move an inch even if he wanted to. Suddenly, the beast lunged at him. But just before the creature could tear into Veer, a spear whistled through the air and slammed into the beast with tremendous force. The impact sent the heavy monster flying backward. Veer, stunned, looked in the direction the spear had come from. He saw a rider mounted on a strange, exotic horse charging toward the beast. The rider was draped in a deep green cloak, wielding swords in both hands. As the rider chased the beast, they paused for a split second and looked back. The sudden movement caused the rider's hood to slip down. Thick, black hair cascaded out, flowing in the wind. The rider was a girl, a breathtakingly beautiful girl. Her large, kohl-rimmed eyes locked onto Veer's for a fleeting moment. Her gaze was so intense that Veer felt his heart pounding against his ribs, threatening to leap out of his chest. She had the face of an innocent angel, but wore the gear of a deadly warrior, a combination that was truly lethal. Without a word, she turned her attention back to the hunt and galloped away after the monster. Veer opened his mouth to call out to her, but before a sound could escape his lips, a hand grabbed him from behind and yanked him backward. Veer found himself swallowed by smoke once again. As the haze cleared, the magical world vanished. He was back in the lab. Standing directly in front of him was Dr. Khurana, staring at him with blazing anger.
What the hell were you trying to do? Do you have any sense of responsibility, or have you lost your mind completely?
Veer stood silent, trembling. He knew he was in no position to argue. He realized that his reckless mistake could have cost him his life.
What if something had happened to you? Do you understand? Why don't you get it, Veer? You are just a kid. This dangerous game is not for you.
Veer looked up. The fear in his eyes was replaced by a cold, desperate resolve.
Uncle, playing this game isn't my hobby. It's not just an interest anymore. It has become a necessity.
Hearing the heaviness in the boy's voice, Dr. Khurana paused. His anger softened into confusion. He stopped shouting and looked at Veer, waiting for an explanation. Veer took a breath and told him everything. He recounted the events of the last 12 hours in detail, the failed heist, the blackmail, the threat to his mother, and the mansion. He explained exactly why going to Titan and earning that money was a matter of life and death for his family. Dr. Khurana listened in silence, falling into deep thought. Veer sat down on the floor, defeated and hopeless, waiting for the verdict. After a long, heavy silence, Dr. Khurana finally spoke.
Okay.
Dr. Khurana sighed, realizing there was no changing the boy's mind.
If you are dead set on going to Titan, I won't stop you. But before you go, you need to know exactly what you are getting into.
I'm ready, Uncle.
Veer directed his entire concentration toward Dr. Khurana. Seeing his resolve, the doctor began to explain the details of the world he was about to enter.
Listen carefully. Our base on Titan is known as Dev Shelter. You will teleport directly into your assigned room there. But remember, Veer, surviving there won't be easy.
Dr. Khurana leaned in, his voice becoming serious.
To increase your strength and capabilities, you will have to pass levels. You do this by earning gene points. And the only way to get those points is by hunting aliens and harvesting their energy.
Veer nodded, absorbing the information.
It is very similar to the video games you play. The only difference is, the danger here is real. One small mistake can cost you your life. And unlike video games, you don't get a second chance here. There are no respawns.
Dr. Khurana said it effortlessly, but Veer knew the reality would be far more grueling than the words suggested.
Titan might look like our Earth, but it is fundamentally different, and so are its rules. In that world, modern science and technology are useless, because the civilization there is still evolving. No scientific or technical equipment functions.
He gestured to the machines around him in the lab.
In other words, a steel dagger will be more useful to you there than a machine gun. Missiles and nuclear weapons are of no use. Even mobile phones or electronic instruments won't turn on. Everything is exactly as it was during Earth's primitive stages of development.
Veer listened with rapt attention. While it sounded like a script from a sci-fi movie, it was fascinatingly real. Surprisingly, instead of being intimidated, Veer found his interest growing. He was eager to hear more.